Well, in about 4 hours, we've got a big match. This is an exciting time in men's tennis. And we're going to take a look at what's on the line. And I got to say, I think I'm going to switch my prediction going back to since Wimbledon. I said Sinner's going to win the US Open. And now I'm starting, especially with the injury. That was the thing. We saw Felix Auger coax some kind of mild ab injury out of Sinner. And I think that could be enough when you're going up against someone like Alcaraz. And I think the surface is better for Carlos than, say, the Australian Open or Wimbledon. So those are two big factors going into why I may change the prediction. Let's go through the numbers, though. So what's on the line today? Well, first, 4 men have reached all 4 Grand Slam singles finals in the same year in the Open era. And the two Spaniards, Alcaraz and Nadal, are not on this list. So that's one thing Sinner has going his way. He is kind of the man of destiny here. So far, of course, we know what Rafa did to Federer when he was trying to win everything all the time. And we know what Carlos can do to Jannik. Anyways, back-to-back U.S. Open titles for Sinner. He could stay the world number one. If Alcaraz wins, Alcaraz will become the world number one. 5-1 record in Slam finals. He would like that with only one loss coming at the French Open for, of course, Sinner had match points. And 28 consecutive wins at hardcourt slams, which is incredible. Carlos is playing for return to number one. 10-5 record against Sinner, double him in the head-to-head. 6-1 record in Slam finals, which would be better than 5-2, obviously. And multiple slams on all surfaces. Of course, he has won the U.S. Open, but only one time in 2022. And I have a feeling this match is going to look more like that. I think we got a good shot at a 5-setter today. Here's another thing that's pretty important for Carlos Alcaraz. He has now finished this one. Players who beat Djokovic on all 3 surfaces. He has joined that list. It's only the big 3. I mean, the big 4 minus Djokovic. Federer, Nadal, Murray, Sinner, and Alcaraz. Pretty cool that the only guys who have done this to the GOAT are these guys who all, are so incredible. Sinner is the youngest. He is the youngest man in the Open era to reach 5 consecutive Grand Slam finals. So that's pretty incredible. We always hear about Alcaraz doing things as the youngest, since Sinner is just a little bit older than Alcaraz. But here's one that Sinner has, and it is better than anything the big 3 did in their younger days. Pretty amazing. Super Sinner, among all active players, just goes to the same as the last one. Sinner is the fastest to reach 300 career wins. We also have to talk a little bit about Djokovic, maybe a tiny bit about Felix Auger, who, good for him, he put in a good match. I think the Uncle Tony curse is definitely gone. Now he doesn't have to think in his mind when he's losing matches, damn you, Uncle Tony, for ruining my game. Now he's passed that on to Zverev. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about him. But mostly we'll talk about the final. And, of course, we'll talk about Djokovic, because a lot of people are saying this is the end for Djokovic. A lot of people think Djokovic might not even play next year. Djokovic says he would like to play a full Grand Slam season next year, meaning play all 4 majors. But even, he won't say he knows that for sure. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I got to say, Alcaraz, it would be great for him to win. I think he could be a much bigger superstar than Sinner. And he handled this really well, what he said after what some people think is ending Djokovic's Grand Slam career. I think everyone knows Novak as a player, says Carlos. What he does on court is unrepeatable, all the records, but above all, he's a wonderful person, always there to help the young ones, and that really deserves admiration. He is such a wonderful person, and that is what makes him great. It is well documented, not that Roger and Rafa were bad to their young rivals, but Djokovic has really gone out of his way to help those guys out. He's even put up his own money to fund the careers of some young players, so Djokovic is well known for that in the locker room. Sinner, is he vulnerable today? That's my big question. He took a painkiller. The serve speeds went down. Something was wrong in the core. Serve speeds went down against Felix. Loses the second set, 6-3. And the serve speeds do go back up after a little while. And it's pretty obvious he took some kind of anti-inflammatory painkiller medicine. And it took about, 20, 30 minutes to kick in. And then he was kind of back to the normal Sinner. I will say his foot speed looked the same to me throughout the match. He looked fast. He was getting the ground strokes and hitting them big like usual. But definitely things were different on the serve. And you can see that reflected here in the total match stats. We won't even look at the isolated second set. Put these stats on the screen. Sinner getting 56% in first serve. His first serve numbers went down, even though he took a lot of speed off the first serve. He still was missing a lot. And the first serve 1 points, just barely above Felix there. But where you see the big difference is what the best players are so good at is that second serve win number for Felix. You know, he's going to be able to get that close to 60 against a lot of guys. You play a great returner, and that number gets smushed down to 46, whereas Sinner still, you know, even despite being hurt, easily winning 67% on the second serve. And then you see the big one for me is 10 break point opportunities. Right? Sinner had 11 chances and was able to break 4 times against Felix. Felix had 10 chances to break Sinner's serve. Sinner's so good off the ground, not bothered as much in the whatever injury he had, and able to save 9 of those. But to me, that alone is a sign of the injury right there. I don't think Felix normally would have had so many opportunities to even think about breaking. One more thing on Alcaraz. Something Alcaraz has going for him going into this final. Take a look at this. It has been exactly 10 years since the birth of the saber. Roger Federer invented the saber in Cincy 10 years ago, so a little more than exactly 10. And he took it to the US Open, and everyone thought he was going to beat Djokovic. He made it all the way to the final without dropping a set, and now, for the first time in 10 years, it is Alcaraz who is in the final of the US Open without dropping a set. It didn't work for Federer. He lost to Joker, and now Alcaraz has to play Joker version 2.0 and Jannik Sinner. Is history going to repeat itself? Is Alcaraz going to lose? We also have another piece of history. No one has defended the U.S. Open title since Roger won 5 of these things in a row, going 2004 to 2008, of course, losing to Juan Martín del Potro in 2009 final when he yelled and cursed at the umpire a little bit. Roger did. I remember that like it was yesterday. So yeah, Alcaraz, will he repeat? Well, not will he repeat. Will he do what Federer didn't? He's already repeated getting through without dropping a set. He's definitely not going to win without dropping a set. I don't think that's going to happen. Or is Sinner going to repeat? Is he going to be the first person to do it since Roger Federer? There is another thing that goes for Alcaraz. This court, it's a slower hard court compared to the Aussie. It might be a little faster than Wimbledon, but I think it's a little slower than the Australian Open. And the main thing is that ball will sit up and bounce higher and take the spin better, and it gives Alcaraz a chance to get creative. Now, you think about Alcaraz hitting like a Rafa, big spinning, powerful forehand, but here was a great clip from the Djokovic match, probably my favorite point from the match. Take a look. Carlos Alcaraz goes Johnny Mac style. Felt like Joker was so close to getting this second set, 3-1. And who thought Joker was going to lose this set? Okay. And the compliment up. That looks like John McEnroe's forehand. Pretty awesome. And I think that's the thing about the surface. It gives Carlos a little more time to get creative. It helps his spin. And I think that could be a factor, just like the French Open. Now, Sinner came out and was smacking Alcaraz around in the French Open, if you remember that. And then Alcaraz really had to dig deep and win it in 5 sets. And that's why I think, you know what? I think I'm just going to do it right now. I'm going to call it Alcaraz wins today in 5 brutal sets. And it's going to look something like the 2022 match. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But first, it is the end of an era. A new era begins. For the first season in 23 years, we have no Federer, no Nadal, no Djokovic in any of the 4 slam finals of this year, 2025. Joker said it himself. He doesn't think he can beat these guys in best of 5 anymore. Do I believe that? Am I done picking Joker to win majors? Was that my final bad pick, where I stick with one of my big 3 GOAT guys in a match that looks like maybe they can't really win it? It could be the end. We'll talk about that too in today's edition of Coffee Break Tennis. Welcome to the Coffee Break Tennis podcast. Sorry we have not been here much for the U.S. Open. This is always a tough time here. I work a lot more during the U.S. Open as compared to the other 3 majors. But anyways, we are here, and we will definitely be back Monday or Tuesday after the final to see if my prediction of Alcaraz in 5, which was my prediction was Sinner in 4. Throughout the tournament, I was thinking Sinner in 4 over Alcaraz in the finals. What I was feeling with a chance of Joker being there and Sinner winning against Joker in 4. That's kind of what I was feeling throughout the summer of the tournament. And then we see this little injury. We see Alcaraz playing really well, not dropping a set. I think I've flipped it to 5, so we'll have to come back and see if that actually happened. Anyways, let's go to the most important factor today, and this is what ultimately flipped it for me. I thought Sinner was just going to find a way no matter what, but if he's carrying a little injury, even if he's got painkillers and he's going to play through it, I think Alcaraz can work him so hard that the painkillers stop working.
On the injury and why you left the court, what the nature of the issue was?
Yeah, I just felt small twitching in after a serve when I served there in the second set
Just
on 4-3. After the treatment was feeling much better, and at some point I didn't feel anything anymore. I was serving back to normal pace, and so it was all good, nothing to worry about. So but I preferred to go off court because it's on a different spot, so it's all good.
What does that mean? I think that means they had to take off some of the clothing, so they had to go back there to treat him in maybe kind of like below the stomach, somewhere around there. He says it's not a big deal, it's over, but of course these guys are going to say that even during the match. The commentators were saying how Sinner's a bit old school. I think it was James Blake and Johnny Mack talking about this. Sinner's a little old school. He's really trying hard to hide the injury throughout the match. He says, you typically see players complain a little bit more about whatever's bothering them nowadays. And Sinner was trying really hard to hide the fact that something was bothering him during the match. So he's definitely not going to tell us in the press conference all of the details. I think he's probably right. It's probably not a big deal for the rest of the match after the painkillers kicked in. But again, you don't really, as Djokovic is so commonly saying nowadays, you don't really know how injured you are until the next day, right? After the match is over, after you've slept and woke up, and then you really see where the body is, the painkillers wear off, etc. So only the Sinner team knows where it is. I would guess it is a mild concern for them, especially going against Alcaraz, and they're focused on getting through this thing in 3 or 4 sets and not letting it go long enough to make the injury come back. That would be my guess. We're gonna look at 2022 because I think this is what we're getting into. So if you look at this match, Alcaraz comes out and gets that first set, and then Sinner, works Alcaraz hard and wins in 2 tiebreakers, including a bagel tiebreak in the 3rd set. This match in 2022 went 5 hours and 15 minutes long. Alcaraz winning another, to me, especially back then, 6-3, and then a 7-6, a 7-6, a 7-5 for Alcaraz in the 4th set. And then all of a sudden, Sinner kind of goes away in the 5th set, and you get a 6-3 easier set. I could totally see something like that happening now. But as Felix Auger pointed out, since 2022 was the year he was talking about, Sinner has gotten a lot physically tougher. So maybe it won't happen this way. Maybe Sinner is just going to run through Carlos again like it is Wimbledon. This is a hard court where Sinner has been the best. And it is pretty fast. It's just not as fast and not as low bouncing as Australia, which is why Alcaraz hasn't even made it to the final to try to play Sinner in Australia yet. Maybe next year we'll finally get to see that. I would say Sinner wins for sure, unless he's got the flu or has a serious injury. Anyways, looking at the numbers, Sinner's serve has gotten a lot better since 2022, and that was definitely a factor here. I would like to know when those double faults came. Did they come later in the match as Sinner maybe got a little worn out? I don't know. I don't have all that information here. But Sinner, out-aced, even back then, he out-aced Alcaraz 9-5, but he out-doubled him 13-6. In the first serve went in a lot less, 54% for Sinner versus 64% for Carlos. Sinner did win more on the first serve, 66-63, but Carlos's serve has been getting better as well. And, of course, the all-important second serve points, that is where you break. There was a lot of break point opportunities, by the way, in this match. Alcaraz had 26 chances to break Sinner. Sinner had 16 chances to break Alcaraz. Alcaraz able to break 15 times. That is really incredible. I don't think we're going to see that. I doubt we'll see that many breaks, but who knows? This is going to be an all-out war, I have a feeling. Anyways, the all-important second serve points, Alcaraz did a lot better. 16% better, 59-43. Again, I wish I could see the set-by-set breakdown in here. I'm sure if I dug a little deeper on the internet, I could find that. But we're just going to do a quick show today because we're not too far off from the final anyway, so we don't have to dig through all of that. The bottom line is, I think it is possible that we will see Alcaraz winning the second serve points again, just like in this match. I think it is also very possible Sinner could hang on and do better on the first serve points. But who's going to get more first serves in? And how is that injury feeling? It affected him on the serve, and the serve was a big factor in this match oh so long ago. We shall find out today. My prediction, Alcaraz wins this thing in 5, and Sinner has had a long season. He's done a lot of winning, but that's when these little kind of injuries pop up, especially for these young guys. Now, we turn to Djokovic. We got to talk about him a little bit, and then we'll get out of here. But the official pick is Alcaraz in 5. Djokovic was asked about his injuries, and he said, it's more the cumulative effect. And I can agree with him. When you get into your late 30s, I'm 39 now, you can feel great, but if you're playing a lot of tennis, if you're, playing long matches, multiple hours, at this age, even if you feel good, you're just going to constantly have little things pop up. And, they're not super serious. But if you have to win a final after playing lots of tennis inside of 2 weeks, then it's going to hold you back. It's going to make it harder. And it sounds like Joker is finally admitting that maybe, it's just he's taking care of his body so well, but it doesn't matter. Playing tennis at this level, you're still going to have little issues pile up. And then you run into one of these guys where it just doesn't affect you like that. Maybe Sinner is feeling something in his core, but that is the effect of like the whole year and the fact that he's played more matches than anybody else because he's been winning, right? Obviously, he didn't have to play during the suspension in the beginning of the year after the Australian Open. Maybe some people argue that kind of helped them. We hear players complain all the time about they don't get enough breaks on the tour. Well, Sinner had a nice long break and was able to come back just when things were getting, the important tournaments were back. You really don't need to play all those tournaments between the Aussie Open and Rome. Rome is a great warm-up for the French Open, and then there you go. You got the French, you got Wimbledon, and pretty soon you're at the US Open. So that might have been a factor in helping Sinner be fresh through this stretch, but now he's been through this stretch. He's done a lot of winning, and here we are. So maybe that will be a factor today. We shall see. But for Joker, it's definitely a factor at all of the majors. He said he's not giving up, is the official quote. I'm not giving up on the slams, but it's definitely it's not getting easier, and I just don't believe that I can beat these guys in best of 5 anymore. I think Joker is a little bit just saying that because of the disappointment of the season and the moment. I don't think he's given up. I think he will be back, and I'm going to tell you why. I still give him a chance to get another win against one of these guys. Maybe he doesn't beat them both and win another major, but I could see him pulling off a win. It is certainly possible, especially as he says this and the expectations go down, and then these guys become even bigger favorites against him, and there is a little chance there to work with that, to get into their heads a little bit. So take a look at this.
One question, please raise your hands. Willie.
Novak, what you've done at the majors this year would be the envy of probably every player on the tour except 2. What are your thoughts about what you've accomplished and whether that would be enough for you in the future?
I think you're right. I lost 3 out of 4 slams in semis against these guys, so they're just too good, playing on a really high level. Fortunately, I ran out of gas after the second set. I think I had enough energy to battle him and to keep up with his rhythm for 2 sets. After that, I gassed out, and he kept going. So that's kind of what I felt this year, also with Yannick. Best of 5 makes it very, very difficult for me to play them, particularly if it's like the end stages of the Grand Slam.
Matt.
So that's key. The end stages of a Grand Slam. His ranking could drop. He could face one of these guys even earlier. Maybe he'll be a little fresher there for sure. But I think we'll look at the stats first. I think it's the conditions mainly. We talked about the dew point. We talked about how it got worse. Joker just said he ran out of gas. I said it was key that he wins the first set. If he doesn't, he's going to run into that, humid, heavy conditions as the dew point rises. And even Sinner, it seemed to bother a little bit. They said, Sinner was having to towel off his racket more. The conditions have been nice leading into the semis, and he was having a harder time not having the racket feel like it's going to slip out of your hand. It's kind of the worst thing about it, really, other than it's draining you and making you sweat everything out, too. There's that. Anyways, take a look at this. In the third set, Joker's down 2 sets, but I took a look at the stats, and this isn't the one I had in the moment. I guess I looked at the stats late in the second set. But even here, you can see this match is close. Like, if you just look at the stats, break point saved, well, Alcaraz doesn't save any, but there's only 1. Joker saves 2 out of 4. Second serve numbers, they're neck and neck, 53 for Joker, 55 for Alcaraz. Alcaraz is winning 80-70 on the first serve and getting a little bit more first serves in, 61-59. And look at the winners to unforced. Joker's only -10 at this point. Alcaraz is -5. Like, yeah, that's not good, but he's still in the match. And as he said, he ran out of gas. Take a look at the numbers by the end of the match, how drastically different it is. A lot, more breakpoint opportunities come. Joker's getting broken more. -15 now on the winners to unforced, whereas Alcaraz is only -1. And if you look earlier, I don't have it. I looked at it earlier. That's the thing. Like, you look at the middle of the second set, you get the average of all the stats from the first set and half of the second set. And then when the match is over, you can only look at the total. Set 1, set 2, set 3, obviously. But it's always interesting to see, like, kind of in the middle of the match where the stats stand versus the end. And you can totally see here that, these numbers flipped. But earlier in the match, it was really close. The differential winners to unforced errors, first serve, second serve numbers and all that. It was close. Joker was definitely in the match for a while. But, of course, he did lose that second set despite being up 3-0 and getting into a tiebreaker. Despite playing a pretty solid first set, even though, he got broken in the first game. It was a long game. He had his chances there, but Alcaraz got that break in the first game of the first set, and then, they played even from that moment on, but he was able to serve it out 6-4. And I just wanted to, we talked about it last time. The dew point is the most important metric, and hit the music because we're going to get out of here. The dew point is the most important metric when you're talking about heaviness and conditions, feeling hot and humid, sticky, as people say. And all the other majors are a lot better than here. So I think if Joker hadn't been in those draining conditions, just like we saw him he battled in Miami, and the conditions were so heavy, that dew point was definitely in the 70s, and it looked like Joker was going to die by the end of that match. I still give Joker a chance for a great upset, particularly in the Australian Open, where Alcaraz is the most vulnerable. Could see Joker pull it off again if he's healthy and playing great. And just look at this dew point. I'm trying to remember we had the little graphic showing you where it feels bad. But the bottom line is, in the 50s, it's comfortable. 60-64, it is noticeable. 65 to 69, it is rough. It is uncomfortable, is how it would be described. And 70 and above is, what was the word they used? Something like horrible, awful, oppressive, I think was the word. It's oppressive. Yeah, once you hit that 70 dew point, it is rough. I played the night of the semifinals. I was actually listening to the broadcast of Sinner's match and Felix for part of it, and then I watched the rest. And I was out playing, and the dew point was 67 for us, and I think it was 66 for Yannick, and it was 64 and 65 for Joker and Alcaraz. And in 67, I went through 3 wristbands, 3 headbands. I played about 2 hours long. And I went through a couple shirts. I would have wore a third shirt. I just only brought 2 shirts with me. I had the shirt I was wearing and I had 1 extra. So that's what it does. 67 is making you change your shirt and your wristband, your headband at least every hour, Anyways, take a look at Melbourne. Average during January for the Australian Open, Melbourne, 55 to 59. Very comfortable, not even noticeable yet. Remember, we don't hit noticeable till 60. French Open, about 52. In May. In June, goes up to 54, 56. Sometimes you can have heavier conditions at the French Open where you hit 60, 61. It does happen. But again, Joker was playing in 65. It's totally different. Wimbledon, average 54. Wimbledon's pretty much always the nicest. I guess early in the French Open it can be a little lower. But Wimbledon, there's a reason why when you see Federer play Wimbledon, he looked like he never sweat. Well, I've definitely seen Federer sweat at the US Open. So I think Joker, disappointed with the loss, but it's not over yet. If he wants to keep working this hard, he's clearly the third best in the world. If he wants to keep working this hard, the US Open is just not the place to do it against these young guys. It really isn't. If he's going to do it, it's going to be the Aussie Open. I don't think it's the French anymore because it's just so physical, brutal, having to battle in longer points and slide around in the dirt. It's going to be Wimbledon or the Australian Open, just like it was this year. That's why I was so disappointed when Joker hurt his knee and or whatever he hurt, his hip. I can't remember. He got hurt in that Wimbledon quarterfinal. Because that was his best chance by far, especially against Sinner. The Aussie, it's going to be really hard to beat Sinner, but the conditions are better for Joker. So at least when you hit that, that age, your late 30s, playing in heavy conditions and playing a good opponent, it's like you're playing two separate opponents at the same time. So Joker fans, don't give up yet. I think we do get another season out of Joker, and I won't be surprised at all if we get another great win. Kind of like, even though Fed didn't win the French Open in 2011, no one thought he could beat Joker in that semi, and he did it, and it was a great moment for the Fed fans that they never forget. So I don't think it's over yet. Maybe Joker doesn't win another major, but it's certainly possible at Wimbledon, a little bit possible at the Aussie, and definitely possible he could get another win over Alcaraz for everyone to remember and celebrate. Anyways, enjoy the final. We'll be back after. See ya!